Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is a mastery empowerment course brought to you by New Earth One Network. And my guest today is a channel who shares some interesting and valuable information on accelerating our timelines in this new Earth energy. Jeilene Tracey is here, and we welcome you, Jeilene. Thank you for being here.
Hello, it's great to be here, Loren. Thank you so much.
Well, we are here on New Earth and we're talking about this great opportunity for changing and accelerating our evolutionary timeline here on New Earth. And there's a lot going on with our DNA and all kinds of energy shifts. Can you share with us why now? Why is this such an important time?
Absolutely. So, the guidance that's been coming in really over the past 12 months, but it's really accelerated over the past several months, is that we're moving into a time and really are in a time right now where the energy on the planet has completely shifted because the energy of humanity is shifting. Consciousness is changing. It's lightening, it's shifting, as is the planetary position in the galaxy, as is the energies of the beings that have been supporting Earth for a long time. So there's all of these things that are coming together, creating this perfect storm of shift on the planet. We've been gifted with this collective pause that's happening right now because of this. Perceived pandemic. And so, because of that, we're all quieter and we're all calmer and we're all having a moment to step inward to really reprioritize what's important to us. And that is that golden opportunity for all of us to really assess why we're here, what do we want to accomplish while we're here, and how do we want to show up in the world. And so, along those lines, the Mantis have been bringing in a whole multi-phase process called embodiment. And that's what I'd love to talk with everyone about today, because it's been such a powerful experience for me to go through, and especially with clients that I've been working with. And it's just creating really rapid and accelerated change.
Yes, embodiment. What keeps someone from embodiment? This is all of what we're here to clear out. So when you work with your clients, what are some of the common threads that you see are overcome or cleared out in that process?
Mm. Well, because everything in the physical is anchored in an energetic um, trigger. What happens when we begin the embodiment process is that we first come into a connection and recognition of our physicality. So connecting to the physical body is super, super important, and it's a big part of this process because we came to be physical beings. And so you'll remember the last time we worked together, we talked about the 5 movements and the integration and the cohesion within the physical body that helps, and creating cohesion between your physical and energetic selves. So that's really the first step, is to get into that space of being physically connected, because a lot of times we pop up out of our body unintentionally anytime there's been a stressful experience, right? We do that. So while we are inhabiting our body physically, then we can start to connect into the energies that are driving a lot of our physical ailments, right? Or our physical manifestations, whether they're something that's happening in your life emotionally or physically. Those things are always anchored in these either timeline energies, other lifetimes, or in something that happened to you earlier in your lifetime, which I call aspects of your current life. So this process is really about clearing those out, and we don't clear and yank them out and just throw them away and expect the earth to do all the work to integrate and transmute that energy. We actually, working with the Mantis, there's a process called sonic release integration, where Mari, my main Mantis guide, literally draws the energy from your Akashic field, from many of the beings that are resonating in common with a particular theme. And she draws it through creating a gravitational force in the center of a circle. And then using sonic waves, she reintegrates all of that energy after it's been transmuted back into each one of those lifetimes. And that's the really important part, the reintegration, because when something happens to us, we don't just yank it and try and get rid of it. I think that in the past, that's what a lot of people tried to do. It's like, hey, I just need to be relieved from this energy. I just need to get away from it, or I just need to clear it, right? We're all about clearing energy. Well, really, now it's about reintegrating energy. It's about making it part of you, but doing so from a shifted, a pivoted perspective. Everything that happened to us happened because of an energetic vibrational match that we had to it. So it occurred to you as part of your learning process, right? As part of your gift. And we know that for those of us who've been studying this work from all over the place in our guides, they tell us this is happening to you for a reason. Sometimes not so easy to hear, right? But we know there's a reason behind these things. So ideally what we want to do is take that step beyond just, okay, there was a reason for this, and start to investigate the energy behind it. And that's what this work really helps us to do.
Yes, investigating the energy behind it and moving clear of it. And
Mhm.
so, as we do that, it's really beautiful for the phases of embodiment, and that's really what we're going to talk about, because it's not just one thing. The phases are to be integrated, just as you're talking about too. So,
Mhm.
share with us more about what that means.
Yeah, so the phases are basically the way that the Mantis brought in this process for me, which is um, the initial is to get, as I say, connected into the body and get really um, integrated with every cell in your body and with your physicality. Then, once that's done and you can really feel yourself and recognize yourself, then you start to be able to understand things that have happened to you throughout your life and look at the different aspects. So, an aspect is basically an epoch of your life, perhaps your young childhood. Maybe if you had a traumatic childhood, it was, ages 0 to 5. Maybe you had a lot of trauma as a baby. Maybe it's ages 5 to 10. Or maybe it's when you were 6 years old, something very traumatic happened to you and it created its own aspect of your being. The thing is that these aspects, they're all working together or against each other, and they're driving your current reality because they have an agenda, right? The agenda is resonating in connection to something probably at the Akashic level, right? Especially when it's at a very young age. But then we have to remember that these things pop up and crop up throughout our lifetimes. So they start in the beginning of our life, but then at 20 or at 40, right? It keeps coming until we recognize the energy that's being vibrationally matched to. And so the first process in phase one is to start recognizing what those aspects are. There's a meditation to help you meet those other aspects and to work with each one, hear their story. Very importantly, find out who's in charge, because you might think you're in charge, but it might be your 6-year-old self who was traumatized, and she might be, or he might be calling all the shots, right? Might be keeping you out of relationships, keeping you in a defensive posture to people, all kinds of different things. So there's inner aspect work that happens first. Once you create cohesion within your body and your own energetic field, then we take it out to the next step in phase two. And that's where we start to create cohesion and that sonic release and integration at the Akashic level. So moving out one layer, we work with the entire oversoul, which is the collection of all of your lifetimes. So we think about, and the Mantis have always brought this imagery into me, that as energy flows into from source and flows into manifestation as form, it's moving through your oversoul and it's collecting with it all of your experiences, right? And then it's flowing into physicality and form when your soul flows into a being that you are in agreement to inhabit while you're here. And so that process carries with it all that information from all those lifetimes. And what I find is that, especially with clients, that clients will have one or two, sometimes three major themes of their life. And again, just like with the inner aspects, those things are the things that you have a vibrational match to because you have an agreement to work them out, ameliorate them in this lifetime. And so you'll see them crop up in your life multiple times. And oftentimes when I sit down with somebody, it's like boom, 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 boom. I see the six peaks. It's like their timeline and there's 6 peaks. And those are all relating to this theme or a couple of themes. And so it's about identifying those themes and then inviting those aspects into your field with you because you're part of that theme because you came here to, vibrationally match them. So working with all of those aspects and doing this sonic release integration helps to transmute the energy of that trauma that they have been vibrating and flowing into your awareness in this lifetime because you have the agreement to ameliorate this energy on behalf of all those lifetimes. Of course, we know that all lifetimes are happening simultaneously, if I can just add that one layer of detail. So anything that you're doing right now, of course, is going to affect all those lifetimes simultaneously and all of the people that those lifetimes are affecting as well. So it's not something that's happening in a vacuum. You're changing the trajectory of lives throughout the whole of humanity, right? And if you're not manifested into form as a human, there's plenty of interdimensional work that goes on as well. You might be off planet, you might be in another dimensional space. And so all of the beings that we are affecting in all those different timelines are going to receive the benefit from this type of work because every time we shift, everybody around us shifts. So that's the really amazing thing about that phase 2 energy. So once we create more cohesion in the Akashic field and the oversoul, then we're able to really step back into ourself and shift our perception, our idea of who we think we are and what we are, because we're all married to an idea, even when we say we're not, right? We're married to an idea of who we are, right? We have our identity. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a sister, I'm a brother, I'm a parent, I'm, this, I drive a red sports car, I do this, I do that, I'm smart, I'm stupid, we have these definitions of ourselves and sometimes they're unconscious. So those are really important to, as a next step, to start releasing and unraveling, because the way that shows up to me, it's like a crystalline structure around people that creates limitation. It creates basically a binding of your energetic field. It's very difficult to fully expand into a true recognition of what you are, which actually is source embodied in form. And I think we've all heard that, but to really actually feel it in your body, I think very few of us have actually felt it. And remember, when we go through this embodiment process, we're all going to remember it. I mean, we're all going to experience it at a different level, right? And that's perfectly fine because we're all at a different place in our release of these energies, and we're all at a different place in our evolutionary cycle. You may experience the reintegration of knowing yourself as source at one level, and another person might have a complete nirvana experience of it. Both are valid and both are really important as part of our process. So I just want to say that because sometimes people can be a little hard on themselves. I think I know myself as source, but I'm not really feeling it, right? Well, you're going to feel it as much as your energy field allows you to expand. And it's got to feel safe to do so. It's got to feel nurtured. It's got to feel like it's okay. So just be gentle with yourself, I would say to everybody throughout these processes. And I'd say anytime you're working with a healer, be gentle with yourself on what you expect for happening in your body, because your body's got a very clear roadmap to allowing things to unfold and expand in your body. But anyway.
So that phase 3,
Yeah.
is this also the area we hear from others that as they go through the levels of embodiment, that they'll merge with higher aspects of themselves, like whether that's Mother Mary or other beings that they're familiar with? Is that part of the phase 3 as well, where we let go of the label of identity of who we are to be able to merge with those aspects?
Yeah, absolutely. It is. It's about letting go of your perception of self in the small form and allowing yourself to really embody and realize yourself as a fractal representation of source, as a direct embodiment of source energy. Because that's truly what we came here to do, I believe, is to remember and to recognize ourselves as that which we truly are. I am that I am, right? And then when that happens, you realize this is when you really have that deep aha about how all is one and about how there is really just one. There's one consciousness, and we're all an aspect of it. We're all a facet of that diamond, right? So that's a truly ground shifting thing to embody and to realize at whatever level that you do. And then in the fourth phase, really what the guidance brought in was, okay, now that you feel yourself in that way, how are you going to show up in the world? Because it's okay to just, tra la la, I'm embodied and I'm in a cave and I'm enjoying this and I'm feeling nirvana. But that's not where we're at with our evolutionary cycle. We're in a very interactive phase right now. We're in a very much as part of one consciousness, and that recognition of being part of one consciousness, we realize how much we're all affecting each other, how our energy field is all part of one conglomerate, and how my thoughts affect your thoughts, my energy affects that person I walk by. So we start to realize that there's this interdependence going on. And then we can take responsibility for that and decide. So if showing up in my knowledge that I am source is synonymous with me showing up in service, because it is, how do I want to serve? How do I just serve the divine as me? Because truly we are in service to ourselves, which is the same as saying we're in service to the divine, which is also the same as saying we're in service to humanity. And it doesn't mean you go and work in the soup kitchen every day. You can if you want, but it might mean that you hold space for the earth and humanity. It might mean that you work with animals, or it might mean that you just give a smile to everyone you meet. But your way of showing up in service is important and is valuable. But most importantly, it's conscious and it's purposeful and it's got intention behind it. And that really sets the stage. And people talk about wanting to manifest things and to create more abundance in their lives. And I've never found a better way to create abundance in your life than truly embodying that knowledge that you're here to be in service. Because it seems though everything falls in line when you take on that recognition and that responsibility.
Yes, beautiful. Okay, well, those four phases of embodiment, it's a multidimensional experience. And so, as we talk about that and understand these multidimensional layers, what would you say that means to be multidimensional and downloading information? I know many people want to just connect with their higher self in that way to bring in information. But what does it mean for us to truly become multidimensional?
That's a good question. What it means to me and to the guidance I've gotten is to be aware of not just where we are right now in our current focus of attention, but to be aware of the multi-layered energetic field that is around us. And perhaps layered is not quite the right way to say it. I always see it like an atom, like the layers of dimension moving around an atom, a molecule. And the thing that is important about that is to know that depending on where your vibrational attention is, what you're connecting into in any one given time. For example, are you in meditation? Are you in your heart? Or are you in fear? And are you in upset? So wherever you're vibrationally creating a frequency, that's going to elevate you or bring you into an experience, right, that matches that. And so when you are doing these processes of releasing energy through the embodiment phases, what you're doing is you're consistently raising your frequency. You're consistently creating a vibration that has its focus in your higher dimensional selves. And then it does have a propensity to create more awareness, create more psychic ability, create more elevation and lightness of being, and create more joy ultimately, because you feel yourself in those elevated frequencies, and it feels really good, right? I don't think people really need drugs when they do this kind of work. It just feels so good in the body. You feel light and you start to feel freedom. And that feeling of freedom and expansion is so good for humans to feel who have been sort of locked into this control paradigm for so many thousands of years on this planet. That's really welcome.
Yes, it's really interesting that we're here to integrate all of these past lives. Um, and as you said earlier, we're doing it across all timelines and all lives. And that seems like a tall order to some people. But when we understand, wow, that we're here to do that and that we're doing it on a large scale, a huge
Mhm.
scale of all of these past lifetimes that we're able to clear in this lifetime, do you agree that that's really what's going on here and now?
I do. It feels like because of the way that the energy, the texture of the energy, the lightness of the energy has shifted so much on the planet, that these kinds of things are now possible. I don't think they were possible 10 years ago, 2 years ago, because I've been doing this work for a long time, and I would have one or two, concurrent past life come in to help somebody work them out. And just recently, I look to the left and I see 25 beings standing there. I've had 150 beings come in to a space with the sonic release integration. It's been phenomenal. So that was my clue, because I had this firsthand knowledge of all of these beings filing in that have had a similar experience, of vibrational match to what was going on with the client. And I thought, my God, this is a proof we're in a really different time right now. This is different. It feels different. And when you do it, it feels incredible. My body feels incredible when I'm helping to facilitate. I hold the space, Mari comes in and she does it, and it's blown me away. I never would have thought it was possible. I would have thought, first I would have thought perhaps it would have been dangerous for me to do, that it would be too much. And then I also thought that maybe it wouldn't have really worked. I would have been skeptical. That's probably my science side. But I see it working, and I see that these beings are just lining up to come in. And I know that feeling because I've done a lot of work helping beings cross. Sometimes I do a bit of that work where I just, sit in meditation and open myself up to helping beings reintegrate that are, stuck in the bardo or attached to earth or suffering in some way, because sometimes they come into my perception. And it's that same feeling. I see all of these beings lining up and saying, okay, hey, we're ready. We're ready to go. It's like they've been waiting for this event. I really, truly think they have. This is a really special time on the planet.
Wow. And, as you were speaking there, we could talk about like just even at the beginning of 2020, had we any idea of the great acceleration that would go down that we're in right now? I don't think any of us saw it. And so that
Right.
right there is a whole new level of how it can unfold with unity consciousness and this awareness that we are all one and that our energy affects each other because we're already feeling it. So as the majority of the light workers step up and do this work so that they can help others do this as well, there's still a lot of people out there. What are your thoughts on the collective making this transition? Will it accelerate as well? How do you see that part going?
I do. And by the collective, you probably mean everybody
Every
that's
the
into this work and not into
mainstream.
this work. Yeah, mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the mainstream, I think, has been shifting in the direction of more recognition of the supernatural, if you want to call it that, or of the mystical. They have been shifting in that direction. You can see that by the TV that's on now, the shows, by just there seems to be more acceptance that things aren't actually quite as we perceive them to be. And a lot of it, although it's fictional, does sink in and does create more, I think, flexibility in thinking for people. There's still always going to be the scientific community that are going to be the stalwarts and the holdouts, right? That community that I came from that's really restrictive in its thinking and very regimented. I mean, it's like fundamental religion in a way, the way they respond to the new and to the different, right? But humanity as a whole, I don't know about you, but to me, it just feels like it's becoming more expanded. And of course, we're living in areas where consciousness is probably expanding at a faster rate. And I know that there's places on the planet where this is not the case. And some of your listeners might be in some of those areas, but I do feel like it's a wave that is coming. So here where I live in California, I do feel like that wave is amplified here. You're in Colorado, that wave is also amplified there. In parts of Europe, for sure, definitely New Zealand, Australia, India, Asia, but then there's places where things perhaps are not moving as quickly. But I think there's such an overwhelming majority of people that are shifting into a frequency that is vibrating in a way that brings in these openings and these possibilities, that it's going to tip that balance. And things, even though they look really chaotic right now, and they oftentimes, if you would listen to the media, you would think things are in utter chaos. But what the reality is on the ground, it doesn't look like that. It doesn't feel like that. It really actually feels really good. It feels great. So I think there's two stories being told. There's a narrative and then there's reality. And the reality feels great to me. So what do you think? Do you agree?
Yes, well, it's really interesting that you bring that up. I do agree. And, for people who've had this situation, the COVID hit close to home, losing
Yeah.
loved ones, that's a different story. But
Yes.
yet, when we see, and I know that, there are people out of jobs, right? There are restaurants shut down, movie theaters shut down. But yet, on one level, there's a great balancing that's going on all fronts. And you mentioned this too. This is what's going on. It's a rebalancing. And for those who, I mean, look at all of the money in the old system. I don't want to focus on the old system, but the old system with all of the sporting events. If you did the math on a football field or a baseball
Yeah.
field, all of that money is now staying in the coffers of the individual. They're not spending it. So that's pretty interesting as well. And the feeling of goodness is coming out. So, while it is chaotic, it does bring to mind the, and especially if you're watching the news, it really does make people aware that we need to tune into ourselves and discern what feels right within our body. And that's precisely what you're talking about, this cohesion in our body that allows us to feel whether this is right for us or wrong for us. And the outside world is certainly showing us areas where we need to tune in and discern in our own discernment 155%, right?
Yeah,
So it
completely.
is beautiful, but it's like the cymatics when you change from one note to the next. And right now, with what's going on, it seems like every system is just bubbling and coming up to be rebooted and
Mhm.
restructured from that new foundation of love. And soon enough, as we've heard, it could be in the twinkling of an eye that it catches like that. And that new paradigm is anchored in. So we can start to see some of these threads in the collective when we see our young people stepping up, or letters to the editor that present ideas that don't let us go back to the old ways. Isn't that beautiful?
Yes, it is. And I think the kids today, the clients that I have that are kids, they're just absolutely amazing. They're so open and their energy field feels so light. And even when they're suffering from a physical malady, I think a lot of the times they experience physical maladies just because the rest of the energy on the planet hasn't caught up to their frequency. And so there's a difference between their frequency that they hold versus the energy that's around them. And I think that can cause some physical symptomology in them, interestingly. But I agree with you. The kids are really where the big shift is going to happen. So the next generation, the people that are 20 and under right now, they are far more open. They're really beautiful. They're creative. They're bringing in so much beautiful work and so much wonderful energy that is connected to each other, even though there's a lot of stuff going on with social media, and not all of that obviously is positive. But I do see the fact, though, that they're connected. They're talking to each other. They're supporting each other for the most part. We get the stories of the things that aren't going well, but there's also a lot of support and nurturing and lifting up of each other as well. So I think that is showing a lot of promise for what the world is turning into and what is coming to fruition here. And I also think that what's happening right now is, as you said, really difficult for a lot of people. And then also with the media, the way that they're portraying a lot of it and focusing really on mostly negative stuff, is what it's doing is it's creating a lot of stress in people. And that stress is really the number one killer. I see it's not so much the virus, it's the fact that people are very stressed, and they have been for a long time, right? We've people with money struggles or work struggles. It's that stress that creates the acidity in their body and their organs and their blood. That acidity is a better environment for the virus to get into host cells. So what could have been a bad flu season, which is what Mari told me we were going to have last fall. She told us we were going to have a really intense flu season, has turned into something much different because of the state of humanity right now. There's so much stress and war and strife. And so because of that, it's a perfect way of rebalancing. Nature's rebalancing the earth, right? And rebalancing all of us because we were primed for it. We're not living healthfully. And I mean that energetically, spiritually, emotionally, at the collective level. A lot of people are individually, but at the collective level, there's all the stress and worry and fear. And that, unfortunately, is being amplified out in the media right now, which I don't think is helping anybody to put this little virus to bed for the summer, which is what it really should be doing right now. It's really supposed to taper down at this time of
Yeah.
the year, according to guidance.
Yes. Okay. All right. Well, that's a good perspective on that. So you've mentioned Marie, and Marie
Mhm.
is a Mantis supreme being that you are in communication with and is one of your guides. As far as we know, it is a higher aspect of you, Jeilene.
Mhm.
And we're going to do a sonic release integration. Now, Maria's worked with you on this. So, for those who are not familiar with you, share with us how you came to communicate with Marie, and then we can go into this attunement that we're going to experience.
Okay, sounds good. So, Mari is a guide that showed up for me while I was studying body talk. And I had been taking classes in various healing modalities and opening up and shifting, my own childhood stuff, my own personal world that was inhibiting me from connecting into guidance. And I'd had a lot of experiences before that, but I didn't have, I would say, a dedicated guide or somebody that I was continually working with. It wasn't until I really integrated my background of science with my current interest, which was more of the metaphysical healing. I brought those two worlds together, and then it was like immediately she showed up because body talk is very technical. It's got a lot of anatomy involved and scientific backing, especially because my teacher was an epigeneticist, PhD scientist. So I knew that it was like I felt everything click into place in my own expression. And then she showed up, and I would see her showing up in my sessions and telling me basically what was going on with the person that I was working with, and giving me guidance on how to shift it. And the guidance wasn't what I was typically using, which was the tapping, but it was actually the toning. I was hearing these tonings in my head. So it took me a little while, but I really started to trust her guidance. And then just over the years, she and I just got closer and closer. And I realized that she had been this integrated part of my entire life. I started thinking back when I was childhood and different things that had happened to me, and different experiences I'd had while I was alone out in nature or in my house as a kid. I grew up in a really beautiful natural setting. And so I just started to recognize that she'd been around me the whole time. And then in meditation, she had told me that she was there. And um, every time I go to the part of town where my childhood house is, I feel her. It's like that was like their home base in Santa Cruz or something. And that's, I think, why they placed me there. I think I really feel like they had a hand in that whole place I grew up, which is really pretty pasture land that, goes down to the ocean in Santa Cruz. And it's just, I just feel them so strongly when I'm over there. She's such an amazing, compassionate, loving being. She reminds me a lot of Kuan Yin, and she reminds me also a little bit of Kali. So she's got I call it swift and very intense compassion, right? I always feel like she just cuts right through. She's very direct, and but intensely compassionate, and holds a lot of loving space for all the work that I've been doing. And the Mantis are brilliant geneticists. And so she literally shows me the DNA, and she marches me down through, and she shows me the areas that need to be shifted. It's been an incredible education being part of her energy field, and all of the other beings that I work with, the Mantis, some of the other Earth Logos beings. They're all part of this one group that's here to support Earth and take care of Earth, and help in her evolution, as well as their own evolution, because there's Mantis, out also doing other projects. They were part of cloning of humanity, but our perspective on that versus their perspective is quite different. And but anyway, working with the human DNA blueprint to seed other star systems is something that they've been involved in. So she carries on that tradition, but really this group that I work with, their main focus is on Earth and all of her expressions. And we as humans are part of that expression.
Okay, beautiful.
Yeah.
And so the sonic release integration is something that we can experience. And this brings us into an experience, a direct experience as source, right? Source energy.
It
So,
does. It lightens your load, is what it does. It lightens your load. We've been carrying these trauma timeline energies in our field, from the time that we got here, as a purpose. We did it because we're trying to release these. So this is that process that starts that, and it's really powerful to do it at the group level. And it's really powerful to see all the beings that come in, because they all come in together. It happens individually, and it happens at the group level as well. So I love to do it at the group level because it has this radiation of energy and light that just flows expansively out into everything. And so, yeah, when you lighten the load, then you start to radiate in that feeling of feeling yourself as source. You start to be able to embody the truth of your being. It's hard to do that if we are bogged down with those trauma energies.
beautiful. All right. And so we are going to share, you do that on a group level. You've got an upcoming course where you're going to have 4 webinars And this
Mhm.
is where you work with people to do that. Will you be doing that sonic release on the group level?
Yes, definitely. It's really fun when people are right there and they're with me, and the energy is in the room together, in the Zoom room together. It's really powerful. Yeah, so I'll definitely be doing that in the course, along with each week doing an integration and embodiment exercise and meditation that accompanies the information that is part of the course. And yeah, I'm really excited about that because it's just had such positive results when I've been working one on one. So I'm really excited to take it to a bigger group. It'll be great.
Yes, and we'll talk about that and all what's involved. So, first, let's do a little meditation and an attunement so we can feel a little bit more about this lightness and integration within ourself. That would be beautiful.
Perfect. Okay, great. So, everybody participating, please close your eyes and start taking some nice deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. As you breathe into your body, allow the breath to flow all the way down to your belly, filling you up with peace and light. And on the exhale, just allow any distractions or fear or upset that may have been part of your day to release. Feeling your body relax, feeling your energy flow into your physical being. Now, each of you can connect into your heart center. If it's helpful, you can place a hand upon your heart and breathe into your heart. We connect into our heart to feel ourselves and allow ourselves to let go of the stories that the brain tells us about who and what we are. We step into the heart. Feel your energy flowing into your heart. And as you breathe, see your heart center beginning to expand and open, creating a portal for your soul energies to flow through from your Akashic field. Today, we're going to invite many of your lifetimes to flow through your heart. They're going to flow through connected to a vibration and an energy of a particular theme that you have felt throughout your life. Your clue to understanding this theme is to understand those areas of your life in which you have sensitivity, in which you feel that you must be defensive, in which you feel grief or sadness, or perhaps an event in your life that was very difficult. What is the energy of that event? Did you feel that your freedom was taken away? Did you feel that you were being controlled by others? Did you feel that you did not matter? That you were not validated as a human, as a person? Did you experience annihilation? at either the soul or the personal level. Although these experiences can be painful to recall, today we are allowing just the energy of those experiences to flow into the space through your heart, knowing that we're going to allow other aspects of your soul's experience to flow in connection to that vibration, that are ready to be released, that are ready to integrate that energy on all levels of their being, in every cell of their body. Once that energy has been recognized, accepted, transmuted, and reborn anew, bringing peace and serenity to your soul, to your oversoul. So we begin that process now of inviting those lifetimes into the space where you rest. Open the portal of your heart and allow them to flow in. They will not harm you. They are here for healing, just as you are, to be healed, to be recognized. To allow their trauma to let go. Mari will now create a beautiful, energetic mass in the center of the circle of all of those beings that have flowed into the space with you. As you all hold hands and form a circle, you see beautiful glittering light at the center of the circle. It begins to coalesce into form as it spins and forms a sphere. As it spins more and more rapidly, it begins to create its own gravitational pull, its own field of magnetic draw, drawing from each one of your lifetimes the trauma, the fear, the upset, drawing it towards the center of that sphere. As I flow the tones through the space, Mari will be transmuting that energy that flows into the sphere and sonically releasing it to flow through each one of your lives, so that each one may find and experience peace, so that each one may know itself in its truth as a beautiful expression of source energy, as a beautiful expression of all that is. One consciousness, one expression, all is one, all is one. Please take a deep breath or two, continuing to allow the energy to flow from you and back to you, integrating in every cell of your body, bringing you into a space of divine peace, knowing yourself as one with all that is. Feeling the joy flow through your heart from every one of these aspects of your being, in gratitude, finding their peace, dissolving into the distance, connecting with the love that they are, sharing that with all those that they touch. Bringing your energy back into the heart, coalescing back into your physical being, feeling yourself embodied with this energy of freedom, knowing that you no longer need to carry that burden, knowing that you no longer need that weight to exist here, that you are here in freedom, that you are here in joy, and that you are ready to expand and continue to share your expression, your love, and your light as one who knows themselves as God, as one that knows themselves as an expression of pure love and light, as one that knows themselves as the limitless, beautiful, energetic being that you are. You are whole, you are complete. We are one. Please take another nice deep breath. Give your hands a little shake. Wiggle your fingers and toes. And open your eyes when you're ready.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I trust that everyone is feeling so light and full of this beautiful divine peace. That was exquisite. Thank you. And so I know some may have kind of nodded out there because it is so peaceful. The integration there, that was really interesting. In my own experience, I saw a word and I saw how that word, for me, it was acknowledgement, since in the womb, actually,
Mm.
but I saw it in other lifetimes. And I saw in this lifetime where it spiked in events. So it feels really great and whole to have integrated that, because it's just not necessary anymore to carry that. So thank you. That was
Wonderful.
beautiful.
Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, I'm so glad. Yeah, I love that process. And I feel like every time I do it, I also feel that lightness of being and that integration happening on the personal level as well. So I'm just grateful every time I'm able to do it.
Yes, so beautiful. And the toning and the light language was really interesting. Just the expression there When I looked at you, I actually think I could see Mari, actually.
Mhm.
That's interesting, right?
I have heard that before. Yes, that people see her standing right behind me or right beside me.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, we are one and we are feeling that. And we are empowered now for New Earth expressions, as everything is new. And once we clear out these densities and these old energies and traumas, that divine inspiration flows. So we've talked about this work. When we do this work on ourselves, we're literally changing the DNA. And you're a vibrational geneticist. So what has Mari, she's shown you the DNA to work
Mhm.
on people with. Has she shared with you the crystalline DNA and how we're changing and morphing into something totally new?
She has, and the way that she's expressed that to me is that she always shows the morphic field around the DNA. So I believe our DNA really has the potential to become anything, to express itself in any way. And when we release these energies that have, if you say, gunked up the works, right? Then our DNA starts vibrating. It picks up frequency, it picks up speed in the way that it vibrates. It expresses itself in a different way. All the potential of your DNA is in there. Remember how everyone used to call it junk DNA? And now we know that there's all of this material in there. There's billions of base pairs in there of information that's been integrated and it's just waiting to be expressed. Last year, I brought in some information about joy codes that are in there, and that was through the heart. And the expression of those joy codes was really part of something that is our DNA becoming more crystalline and vibrating in that energy. And crystalline DNA to me means it's the potential of our DNA becoming realized. It's becoming more of a normal aspect of our everyday being, the way it expresses itself, the way your physicality feels. I think our journey has been moving from form to formlessness as we're on our evolutionary path. That is going to be a long process, but we start to see hints of it in the DNA, where the DNA starts to function in a more mm, multidimensional way, right? Bringing in information from other places that perhaps wouldn't have been translated well into our physical DNA before is now being more possible because the energy is so much different that our DNA can respond to energetic inputs. There's always been machines and other ways of doing that, or long-term meditation we know shifts DNA. This type of energy work we did today shifts DNA, but it's just going to become a lot more rapid and a lot more accessible for more people. And that is going to be a real game changer for humanity, because once we start to really feel and own our abilities, we're going to be a totally different race of people, right? We're going to be a totally different version of ourselves, the same, but with more awareness of what we're capable of.
Yes, as we become more telepathic, I think we're experiencing some of this already. We hear
Mhm.
from people that they pick up on their friends, but now it seems even out in the collective, we're either really empathic, picking up on people's energy that way, or we can really pick up what they're saying. So when there is that world, I mean, talk about transparency, right? Where there's nothing to hide, and here we are.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
be immaculate with our energy. Yes.
Yeah. And I think also when that starts to happen, people are going to have more empathy and give people more lateral acceptance, because okay, so you're having the same, not perfect thoughts that I'm having sometimes. So I can give you a break. Or, you meet somebody on the trail and they yell at you about something. And then where you might have gotten combative in the past, you might empathize with them and realize that they're coming from a place of fear because they had a bad experience last time they were there. And so instead of your normal reaction and getting triggered by them, you step into this other empathetic reaction because you're actually feeling the whole gamut of why they're interacting with you that way. So I think it's going to have far reaching effects across humanity, where we could start actually feeling each other from our hearts and not being in the brain so much and trying to, like, human brain to brain is probably got to be the stupidest way to people. Right? Because it's just like such limited information here. You've got the full complement of your being from your heart brain, right? But you only have a really small amount. I know it's a supercomputer, but come on, it's just this experience right now. It's not the full gamut of all of your lifetimes and all the things you've ever been. So yeah, when we start operating from our hearts, and that increases receptivity and intuition, doesn't it? And so when we do that, yeah, this is going to be a very different world, and it's pretty exciting how things are shifting in that direction.
Yes, accelerating, accelerating, accelerating. All right, it's really awesome. Well, you are a wonderful guide for all of those who want to step into their embodiment and they would like a facilitator to show them exactly how to do that. And so you've come up with a beautiful program. It is 4 weeks, actually,
Mhm.
for each of the 4 phases of embodiment. So share with us what goes on here because this is actually very transformational.
Yeah. So when I made the course, I was really guided to make each week interactive, not just with meditations that you download. I really want, and Mari really wants to be with people to take them through each one of these steps of the processes, because the energy is just so powerful and strong, and we're so ready to make these shifts right now. So each week we'll meet. There's written information, and there's some meditations, and there's a video of the 5 movements to help you initiate the process by getting connected and centered in your body, um, getting really present moment focus. There's a present moment heart focus tool in there. So once we do that and you've got those tools, then we'll start meeting once a week, and each time we meet, we're going to go through each of the topics of the 4 phases that I outlined. We'll talk about how to identify those aspects, and do a meditation especially designed to invite them into the space and start hearing their story and start releasing the energy of them, so that they stop ruling your life from that unconscious place within you. And that's that first step. And then we'll meet the next week, and then we'll take it to the next level. We'll do more of the work we did today, but we'll deepen it. And then we'll meet the following week, and we will release those perceptions we have of who and what we are, so that we can fully embody source energy within our everyday waking reality. And then in the end, we'll do an exercise to help us clear any energies of the word service, because I think we all hold timeline energies of service, the word service not having a good connotation, right? We think about indentured servitude, we think about what's happened on this planet, the way different beings have been put into slave service. And our own race, if you think about, where, we've got some slave. Um, energy to the whole paradigm that controls this planet right now. And so we're going to do some clearing of that energy, and then we're going to redefine what service is, and then empower everybody to show up in service, so that you can really get on with it, start having some fun with it. And Mari brought in on that comment a lot. She's like, okay, now gets fun, because now we cleaned up the room. So now let's have some fun with it and see what we can do with it and what we can create. And so I'm excited about that part. It'll be great.
Yes, okay. All right, that is available on this webpage. You can just scroll down and see all of the offerings that Jeilene was describing there. And that is really wonderful because when we show up in this new way, that really is New Earth and we can begin to see it. And it is time for wild, creative ideas for New Earth. And then also showing up, like you say, showing up with that divine expression to share our voice and be a leader, a New Earth leader. I know that everyone listening and watching this and shows like this are absolutely New Earth leaders. And
Mhm.
we actually all came here for this moment. It's just a matter of us showing up for the moment. And so, Jeilene, thank you for this course. It is available and it starts soon. It's all recorded so that if someone needs to tune in on their own time, that's available. And you
Absolutely.
also have a personal session because that allows you and Mari to go deep with people.
Absolutely, yes. And in the event that someone wants to take that work more personally, or if they're having trouble figuring out what their themes are, or they're having an issue with an aspect of their self that's really difficult to get beyond, she really zooms in, takes a look at the whole field, and helps you move beyond those things. And as well as scanning the body to see if there's any areas of the DNA that are responding to those energies and causing shifts in the way that you're physically feeling, right? If you're not doing well in one physical aspect or another, she'll make those shifts and help bring your physical body in balance at the same time as bringing the energies into balance.
Yes, very interesting. Can you share maybe one of the most or a story that's fascinated you about the whole experience and a transformation that you've witnessed?
Yes, that's a really good question, because one comes to mind is a longtime client of mine. And each time that we have worked together, and I've worked with her for several years, and each time we've worked together, we've cleared one or two past lives, usually one at a time. And these past lives have been such a strong aspect of her being that it's the kind of thing that feels like you could just clean them all day and they just keep popping back up. It's like, is there any end to this? And the energy of those aspects of her timeline energies affect her physicality quite a bit. And there's a direct link into the way her physical body is showing up for her every day, or the way it's expressing itself. And so, just recently, with the addition of the sonic release integration, um, something like 150 beings came into the space when we connected into a particular theme. We did that work together. And then after that, absolutely says she'd never felt like that before, that she felt this release. And to me, it also felt like finally we had shifted her energy field in a way that, I mean, you don't want to have to do 150 sessions, right? You want to move this stuff out quickly. And so that has been amazing. And she took part in a group process as well. And that was also very intense. So she's experienced it in both ways. But the feedback that I've gotten from my clients is that it's been um, really deeply felt within their body and opened up a clearing in their life in a way that they hadn't experienced before. So that is the way I always gauge, how strong these things are. They always feel really strong to me, but it's really nice to get that feedback, because then I know that um, the energy is transmitting to them powerfully as well. And so that's been pretty exciting. It's early days because this all information all really just came in. Part of it came in a year ago, the part about integration of self, but the last part of it's really come in the last month. So it's really fresh. It's really recent. And it feels like it's just going to continue to evolve and continue to deepen. And so, yeah, each week when we meet, I'm sure there'll be new information added beyond what even has we've been discussing today, because Mari just keeps bringing in new layers and new layers of each one of these phases. So it's been pretty exciting.
Yes, wow. Okay, well, thank you for sharing this information. It shows us the power of shifting energy and being done with those traumas that we no
Mhm.
longer need to carry. What a powerful time on earth for this great transformational work. And we are in deep shift. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, we are.
Thank you, everyone, for shifting your shift and being in this shift with us. And hold your vision of New Earth. Thank you, thank you, thank you. If you'd like to join Jeilene, you can do so. There's options for you. Those teachings are exquisite with the beautiful wisdom of Mari, her guide, the Mantis. So thank you, Jeilene. This
Thank
has been
you, Loren.
exquisite. Share with us as we say goodbye any I know it's going to be exciting. Do you have a vision for 2021 or at least 2030?
What a good question. Let's see. 2021, first of all, feels like we'll be coming out of, so not initially in January. Things are going to be pretty, the energy is, um, so we're talking about a lot of the expansive energy right now, but towards January, like right during the dark months, things are going to be, um, they're going to be a little bit stalled out. And then they feel like they're opening up in the spring, and then the summer feels red hot next year. 2021 summer feels like there is a big event happening, like a big expansion event happening of consciousness, and a big expansion event happening. You know, people have been talking about disclosure for a long time. It feels like July. July feels red hot to me. It feels like that's going to be a really exciting time. There's going to be some like trailing stuff about COVID next year. Sort of, I see it sprinkled around in the fall again as we enter in flu season in 2021. You know, there's just going to be some smatterings of it, not enough to close everything down, but just, you know, people getting that fear. And really what you feel is you feel people's fear and that collective fear that comes up. But that's going to be trumped by a really powerful energy of love and compassion that feels like November. November feels like a really powerful time for heart-centered work. And then December feels absolutely beautiful and magical. So 2021 looks like a really, really amazing year. It's going to get off to a slow start, and then boy, is it going to heat up and get super interesting and powerful shifts happening. Um, and this country is primed to have some powerful shifts happening politically, whether you view them as good or bad. There's going to be lots of dust getting kicked up, right? Now, 2030, I see that. This is exciting. I see that government looks pretty different. Like we might have a shift in government where instead of just having one president, we have a collection of beings or a collective that is more of like a ruling, because the kids that are coming of age now are going to see that there's so much partisanship. It's like, how much longer can this be sustained in our environment? I don't think much longer. It feels like governments are going to start to come into more of a an anchoring in collective wisdom, as opposed to one person, one potus, right, gets to make all the decisions. Other governments are going to start leaning in that direction too, who aren't stuck in a dictatorship type of paradigm. And then the global footprint is going to become far more cohesive, because people are going to recognize it's not even just that they would like to work with each other. It's going to become absolutely necessary. So humanity being part of a new dynamic of the way of governing and the way of connecting and interacting with each other is also going to reflect that, and that we're going to feel, even though we're going to start to see new innovations for dealing with some of the problems we've had in the past that aren't going to feel like problems anymore. And that's going to be because governments are going to come together in a new cohesive way and form this network of information from a more heart-centered place, and less so much the positioning and the posturing, the defensive posturing. So 2030 looks like a pretty exciting time.
Wow, that was like the juiciest part. I'm glad that everyone stayed for this beautiful, I don't want to say prediction, but vision of what you see.
Yeah,
That
that's the
feels
way it
right on.
energetically feels. Now,
Yeah,
everything has become more now moment focused, right? So things can change, but that's sort of the overall energy imprint that's happening right now.
I think we're already beginning to see that with the government, and that's just beautiful. I got chills when you said that, Jaylene.
Oh, good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That is beautiful, and it gives us all more information of how we can each step up with wildly creative solutions and ideas for New Earth. Jaylene, Tracey, thank you, thank you, thank you. And Mari, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here on this very special course.
Thank you so much, Loren, for having me. It's such a pleasure to talk with you as always. And I love connecting with your group. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, if you'd like to work closely with Jeilene, it is available. Namaste.
Namaste.